The sizzle of meat on the grill punctuates the perfect June afternoon, a sound that will forever remind me of the exact moment my marriage began to unravel. Gerald Sanders' annual summer BBQ spreads across his manicured lawn like a Norman Rockwell painting come to life if Rockwell had painted country club members instead of small-town America. I stand at the edge of the gathering, clutching my honey-brined chicken that took 14 hours to prepare, feeling like an intruder despite 4 years of marriage into this family. Brooke, there you are. Elaine's voice carries that particular tone she reserves for Meppolite with a hint of disappointment, as if my existence is a minor inconvenience she's learned to tolerate. You can put that contribution anywhere, dear. The caterers have the dessert table under control. I nod, my smile fixed in place as I navigate toward the sprawling colonial house. The kitchen buzzes with uniformed staff arranging elaborate pastries on silver platters. "Oh, just set that anywhere," one of them says, barely glancing at my carefully crafted dish. I place it on a side table, where I notice two other homemade dishes have already been exiled a cousin's girlfriend's pasta salad card still visible on one. Michael's girlfriend has been dating into the Sanders family for only 6 months, but she already understands the hierarchy. Back outside, I search for Mitchell, finally spotting him near his father's new imported smoker. Gerald stands at the center of an admiring circle, demonstrating features with the enthusiasm of a man who has never worried about a price tag in his life. "The temperature control is accurate to within 1 degree," he explains as I approach. "Japanese engineering, nothing like it on the market." Mitchell notices me and lifts his craft beer in acknowledgement but doesn't break away from his father's audience. 4 years, and I still haven't mastered the art of integration into the Sanders orbit. I drift toward the drinks table, where Kendall Mitchell's older sister and Gerald's corporate protege holds court. At 34, Kendall has her father's business acumen and her mother's social precision, a combination that has propelled her to junior executive status at Sanders Holdings by 27. "I was just telling everyone about my new mental health app design," I say, sliding into the conversation circle, Figma component library notebook clutched to my chest. The interface uses color psychology too. "Is that the one with that tacky neon login page?" Kendall interrupts, swirling the ice in her drink. Her designer sundress catches the afternoon light. "Honestly, if you disappeared tomorrow, no one would even notice." The circle erupts in laughter. Elaine titters behind her manicured hand. Gerald guffaws from his position by the grill. Even Mitchell, who has drifted over, chuckles as he reaches for another beer. Only Michael's new girlfriend flinches, her eyes darting to my face with something like empathy. The sound of laughter surrounds me like cold water, shocking my system. My face burns hot, but my hands turn ice cold around my plate. In that moment, 4 years of accumulated slights crystallize into perfect clarity. I don't cry. I don't storm off. I don't create a scene that would later be recounted as evidence of my emotional instability. Instead, I raise my hot dog in a mock toast, meet Kendall's gaze directly, and say with unexpected steadiness, "Challenge accepted." A brief confused silence falls over the table. Kendall's smile falters slightly. Mitchell looks between us, sensing something has shifted but unable to identify what. Then Elaine chirps, "Who's ready for Gerald to carve the brisket?" And the moment passes. For the remainder of the afternoon, I observe rather than participate. I watch how Mitchell seamlessly blends with his family while occasionally throwing me an absent smile. I catalog every slight, every exclusion, every moment I'm spoken over or around. I twist my wedding ring, not the family heirloom I'd originally been given, but the ostentatious diamond Mitchell insisted I upgrade to after his first promotion. The metal feels suddenly constricting, the stone heavy and foreign against my skin. The Sanders family operates like a well-oiled machine, each member understanding their role. Gerald at the pinnacle, Elaine maintaining the social framework, Kendall as the heir apparent to the family business, Michael as the charming rebel who somehow still lands softly in family-adjacent success. Mitchell, dutiful son, following his father's every directive. And Meath Outsider, the charity project, the working-class girl from Akron who should be grateful for admission to their rarefied world. When Gerald corners me by the dessert table, he speaks over me about brand positioning to an admiring friend. The key to market dominance is controlling the narrative, he says, helping himself to a caterer's tart while ignoring my chicken completely. Actually, I just finished a project for that new wellness app where we used, I begin. Digital fads come and go. Gerald cuts in with a dismissive wave. Real business is built on relationships. He claps his friend on the shoulder and steers him away, my contribution to the conversation forgotten before it began. As we gather our things to leave, Elaine kisses the air near my cheek. Do bring your chicken again next time, dear. It's so homey. I smile and promise I will, already knowing there won't be a next time. 20 minutes later, the drive home stretches in silence, Mitchell checking emails on his phone. Occasionally, he reads aloud snippets about his upcoming Tokyo trip. I stare out the window, mental calculations already running beneath my outward calm. Everything okay? Mitchell finally asks as we pull into our driveway. You've been off since lunch. Kendall's joke about me disappearing, I say carefully, did you think that was funny? Mitchell sighs, unbuckling his seatbelt. Don't start with this again. Kendall was just being Kendall. Not everything needs to be analyzed to death. You laughed, I said simply. It was a joke, Brooke, for God's sake. He gets out of the car, effectively ending the conversation. That night, as Mitchell sleeps soundly beside me, I stare at the ceiling, the day's humiliation replaying on loop. I have 30 days until Sanders Holdings' quarterly transfer when Gerald will officially announce Mitchell's promotion to oversee the Asia-Pacific expansion. 30 days before my husband will be traveling even more frequently, leaving me further isolated in the Sanders ecosystem. I slip from bed at 2:17 a.m. and move silently to my home office. My laptop screen illuminates my face as I begin researching apartments in Denver, where my sister Erin lives. I twist my wedding ring, feeling its weight. I had no idea that Kendall's casual cruelty would be the last favor she ever did for me. The sizzle of meat on the grill punctuates the perfect June afternoon, a sound that will forever remind me of the exact moment my marriage began to unravel. Gerald Sanders' annual summer BBQ spreads across his manicured lawn like a Norman Rockwell painting come to life, if Rockwell had painted country club members instead of small-town America. I stand at the edge of the gathering, clutching my honey-brined chicken that took 14 hours to prepare, feeling like an intruder despite 4 years of marriage into this family. 12 hours after the BBQ, at 2:17 a.m., the ceiling of our bedroom becomes a movie screen for my memories. Mitchell snores softly beside me, oblivious to the earthquake that shifted my foundation earlier today. Each crack in the crown molding installed, because Elaine insisted our original ceiling was depressingly plain, forms a branch in the decision tree I'm mapping in my mind. Sleep won't come. Not tonight. Not when 7 years of subtle diminishment has crystallized into perfect clarity. The memory surfaces without permission. 9 weeks pregnant, cramping in the bathroom while Mitchell attended a golf retreat in Scottsdale. The phone call. His voice, concerned but relieved when I said I could manage. Call Mom if you need anything. 3 days later, Elaine's dried lavender arrangement arrived with a note. It's probably for the best. Timing matters. As if my body had somehow known to reject an inconveniently timed Sanders heir. A week after that, Kendall perched on the edge of our sofa, examining her manicure. Stress from trying to maintain your little online thing might have been a factor. Her eyes flicked to my laptop, where client work waited. Meanwhile, my sister Erin stayed a week, bringing homemade soup and sitting through tear-soaked nights without once suggesting my career had killed my baby. The ceiling offers no solutions, so I count instead. 7 years remembering family birthdays with thoughtful gifts never once reciprocated. redesigning Gerald's personal website for free never acknowledged. Referring 3 major clients to Sanders holding zero gratitude. Scaling back my thriving freelance business to accommodate Mitchell's travel schedule, not a single word of recognition. My feet touch cool hardwood at 3:24 a.m. The ensuite bathroom light feels surgical, unforgiving. The mirror shows a woman I barely recognize, with careful highlights matching Elaine's ash blonde, wearing silk pajamas instead of the cotton shorts I prefer. Is this really where 36 years had led? A woman who dressed differently for family gatherings, adopted their vernacular, swallowed her working-class Akron pride when conversations turned to yacht clubs and boarding schools. The woman in the mirror looks tired, used up. My phone feels heavy in my hand at 4:15 a.m. Aaron answers on the first ring, voice alert despite the hour. I've been waiting for this call for 3 years, Brooke. No questions about the time. No surprise at the tremor in my voice. Just simple recognition of a moment long overdue. How did you know? I whisper, sinking onto the closed toilet lid. The chicken. You've been bringing that chicken to Sanders events for 4 years. They've never once put it on the main table. A legal pad appears in my hands after the call ends. My precise handwriting fills the yellow pages with brutal efficiency. Savings, $23,460 in our joint account. Remaining loyal clients. 3. All mine before the marriage. Apartment options in Denver. 5 listings, all within 20 minutes of Aaron's place. What to take versus leave. A surprisingly short list. 7 years reduced to essentials that will fit in my hatchback. At the bottom of the page, circled twice. 21 days until Mitchell leaves for Tokyo. 21 days to either rebuild this marriage or end it entirely. The sunrise paints our bedroom walls copper as I methodically research bank accounts, apartment applications, transportation options. The golden light feels like permission, like absolution. Mitchell wakes at 6, kissing my forehead absently before heading to the shower. Early tea time with Dad, he explains, though I hadn't asked. He pauses at the bathroom door, noticing my reddened eyes. Try not to overthink yesterday, honey. You know how these things go. I do know. That's precisely the problem. 4 hours after my desperate call, Aaron's ancient Subaru pulls into our circular driveway, trunk already open, cardboard boxes visible through the rear window. Her hug smells like coffee and determination. Got your favorite latte, she says, pressing the cup into my hands. And these, 3 flat-rate shipping boxes, packing tape, bubble wrap. Whatever you decide, I'm here. By mid-afternoon, my car sits packed with the distilled essence of my life. The weight of the decision should have been crushing, but instead, I felt the first real breath I'd taken in years. Oxygen flooding lungs that had survived too long on shallow sips of air. Ready? Aaron asks, car keys dangling from her fingers. I turn to look at the Hauser house with its perfect landscaping and curated interior. The guest room that should have become a nursery. The kitchen where I learned to make Sanders-approved cocktails instead of the spicy foods I love. Ready, I say, and the word tastes like truth. The sizzle of meat on the grill has been replaced by the rhythmic clank of Aaron's ancient radiator. 7 days after I drove 1,100 miles from the life I'd spent 7 years building, this sound has become my lullaby metallic heartbeat marking each moment of freedom. It always acts up when the temperature drops below 50, Aaron says, hauling the last box up the creaking stairs to her spare room. Sweat darkens the collar of her faded Fleetwood Mac t-shirt. Sorry about the noise. I run my hand along the radiator's peeling paint. Don't apologize, it's perfect. And it is. The 2-bedroom apartment above a family-owned bookstore bears no resemblance to the meticulously decorated colonial in Connecticut. The worn wooden floors tell stories of previous tenants. The windows stick when opened too wide. The bathroom sink drips unless you twist the handle with just the right pressure. All these imperfections feel like permission to be human again. Denver's mountain air fills my lungs, thin and sharp. My body hasn't adjusted to the altitude yet, but my spirit has. Each breath lifts another ounce of the Sanders family expectations from my shoulders. The neighbors mostly keep to themselves, Aaron continues, dropping the box labeled kitchen essentials next to 3 others. Mrs. Alvarez downstairs might bring you tamales if she likes you. And the guy across the hall works nights, so you'll rarely see him. People who don't ask too many questions sound perfect right now. Erin studies my face, her eyes identical to mine in color but not in caution, searching for cracks in my resolve. How are you really doing, Brooke? I turn toward the window where the Rocky Mountains stretch across the horizon, a jagged fence between my past and future. Ask me in 10 days, after I pay my first rent. The Denver Credit Union feels nothing like the marble-floored private bank where Mitchell and I kept our joint accounts. The teller, Marissa, according to her name, tag-walks me through opening my new accounts with exactly $11,730. Half our savings, I explain, though she hasn't asked, not a penny more. Marissa's fingers pause over her keyboard. My sister left with nothing but her kids and a suitcase. You're ahead of the game. Her matter-of-fact assessment catches me off guard. In the Sanders world, this sum would barely cover a weekend in the Hamptons. Here, it represents my stake in a new existence. Back at Erin's, my laptop becomes command central for Operation Fresh Start. I route mail forwarding through my college roommate in Chicago rather than leaving a direct trail. I create updated profiles on freelance platforms under Sand and Salt Studio, deliberately excluding any work connected to Mitchell's network. My meticulous spreadsheet outlines every financial obligation: rent share, $950, student loan payment, $460, health insurance, $390, professional software subscription, $75. 10 days, I whisper to the screen. 10 days to secure enough work to justify this leap of faith. Erin pokes her head in, coffee mug in hand. Interview tomorrow at 11. Guy named Jordan Parker, owns a local digital marketing agency. You set up an interview? Already? He's been looking for a UX designer for months. I showed him your portfolio while you were driving here. I swallow back the instinctive protest. 7 years of accommodating the Sanders family has trained me to make myself smaller, to wait for permission. Thanks. I appreciate it. Morning comes too quickly. I dress in black jeans and a burgundy blouse, nothing like the pastels and neutrals that populated my Connecticut closet. The mirror reflects someone I barely recognize. My face appears sharper, my eyes more alert. 7 days of freedom have already begun reshaping me. The coffee shop where Jordan Parker suggested we meet sits at the corner of Broadway and Alameda. Floor-to-ceiling windows frame the mountains. I arrived 15 minutes early, my portfolio loaded on my tablet, and my resume printed on paper I bought yesterday. Jordan arrives 5 minutes late. Salt and pepper hair frames a weathered face. No suit, just jeans and a button-down with the sleeves rolled up. Brooke Miller? He asks, extending a hand calloused from work unrelated to keyboards. Yes, nice to meet you. He sits without ordering. I don't care about your resume. Show me your personal work, the stuff you do because you can't not do it. The bluntness stuns me. Mitchell would have called it rude. The Sanders would have deemed it unsophisticated. I find it refreshing. I pull up my portfolio and hand him my tablet. These are the commercial projects I've done for. Not those. He pushes the tablet back. The ones you don't show clients. The experimental stuff. My fingers hover over the screen. The Sanders voice in my head warns against showing unpolished work. I silence it and open the hidden folder of projects I created during late nights when Mitchell traveled, designs that followed no client brief, only my own curiosity. Jordan examines them in silence, scrolling slowly. You've been hiding, he finally says. These are good, really good, but recently? I haven't done work like this in years. Why not? The question hangs between us. simple yet devastating in its accuracy. Because I was busy becoming someone else, I answered, surprising myself with honesty. He nods as if this makes perfect sense. Children's digital library project. Starts next week. It's yours if you want it. He slides a card across the table. One condition. Do one personal piece every week. Something purely your own. I don't care if it's good or finished. I care that you're finding your voice again. I stare at the card, at the opportunity it represents. Why would you hire someone you just met? Jordan stands, coffee untouched. Denver's full of designers who follow trends. I need someone who remembers how to lead them. He gestures toward my tablet. That person's in there somewhere. Let me know when she's ready to come out. After he leaves, I remain at the table, turning my wedding ring around my finger. The diamond catches the light ostentatious, exactly as Mitchell insisted after his first promotion. I calculate its value, approximately 3 months' rent. Tomorrow, I'll visit a pawn shop. Today, I emailed Jordan. I accept the position and your condition. The radiator clanks as I fall asleep that night. 10 days until rent is due. 10 days to prove this wasn't the biggest mistake of my life. The sound no longer reminds me of freedom, it sounds like a countdown. 3 weeks into my new life, the novelty of freedom was rapidly being replaced by practical reality. My bank account displayed the unforgiving truth: $3,426.18. The number stared back at me from my laptop screen, a digital countdown to potential failure. I closed the banking app and opened my email. 3 more rejection notices since breakfast. That particular chime had become the soundtrack of my afternoons, a 3-note melody of disappointment that punched through my apartment walls no matter how low I set the volume. This is ridiculous, I muttered, finally muting my phone. 5 minutes later, my fingers betrayed me, swiping to check for new messages anyway. Aaron appeared in my doorway with 2 mugs of coffee. How's the great rebirth going? Like labor without epidural, I said, accepting the steaming cup. While I was accommodating Mitchell's career, the design world evolved without me. She settled onto my second-hand couch, tucking her feet beneath her. You got that nightshade program working yet? Nightingale, I corrected. And no, the tutorials might as well be written in Sanskrit. Take a break. We could drive up to Boulder for lunch. I gestured at my screen where the artisan snacks brief glowed accusingly. Pitch meeting in 48 hours. If I can't deliver something exceptional, rent doesn't happen next month. Erin studied me over her mug. What would Brooke from Akron do? Before Mitchell, before the Sanders family sucked out your soul with their silver spoons? The question hung in the air, unanswerable. Who was that woman? The memory felt like trying to recall a book read in childhood, familiar but faded, the details lost. She'd go to the library, I finally said. Later that day, the Denver Public Library hummed with quiet activity. I followed signs to their digital design workshop, clutching my laptop like a shield. The instructora, 20-something, with vibrant blue hair and arms, decorated with tattoos, breezed through commands that left my fingers fumbling to keep pace. Click the nested component, then modify the instance, she instructed, her cursor dancing across the screen with practiced ease. I stared at my own monitor, lost in a maze of panels and properties that made no sense. Around me, heads nodded in understanding while my stomach tightened into a hard knot. If you disappeared tomorrow, no one would even notice. Kendall's voice whispered in my ear as clearly as if she stood beside me. My fingers froze over the keyboard. You okay there? The blue-haired instructor appeared on my shoulder. Fine, I managed. Just processing. First time with this software? Her eyes held no judgment, just curiosity. First time in years, I admitted. I've been using older versions. She nodded thoughtfully. Stay after class. We'll get you up to speed. 2 hours later, the room had emptied except for us. She pulled a chair beside mine. I'm Tess. I career switched at 42. Age isn't the barrier you think it is. Brooke, I said, extending my hand. And it's not just age, it's time lost. Time's only lost if you learn nothing from it. She tapped my screen. Let's start with the basics. Midnight found me still practicing, fingers cramped, eyes burning, 48 hours, until my pitch meeting with Artisan Snacks. 48 hours to master a program that others had been using for years. I reached for my coffee, knocking over a stack of notes. As I gathered them, my hand brushed against my Nightingale component library, tucked in its leather case. I flipped it open, running my fingers over the hand-drawn wireframes and meticulously documented code snippets from projects I'd created before marriage had swallowed my ambition. On impulse, I checked its market value, approximately $1,200, if sold as templates. Enough to cover rent. My mouse hovered over the Create Listing button on a designer marketplace site. Not yet. I still needed the reminder of who I was before Sanders, the woman who built something from nothing once before. I closed the browser and returned to my practice file. By dawn, I had recreated my old designs in the new interface, muscle memory slowly returning with each command. 2 days later, the Artisan Snacks conference room smelled of cinnamon and fresh paint. Lisa Harmon, the owner, examined my portfolio with a jeweler's precision. "Your aesthetic is interesting," she said, pausing on my sample packaging design. "Not what I expected." "Different from your competitors," I pointed out. "Authentic rather than manufactured, like your products." A small smile played on her lips. "We've had quotes from 3 agencies, all sleek, all interchangeable." I leaned forward. "Those designs could work for any artisanal brand, but they're not your story." For the next 20 minutes, I walked her through my concept-earthy colors, hand-drawn elements, packaging that revealed the ingredients through clever die cuts. "I like it," she said finally. "We can offer $1,800 for the complete package." My heart leapt, but my face remained calm. The old Brooke would have accepted immediately, grateful for any work. But rent, software subscriptions, and student loans demanded more. "My standard rate for full branding is $3,200, I heard myself say. "That includes exclusive rights and testimonial usage for my portfolio." The words hung between us. My pulse thundered in my ears. Lisa's eyebrows rose, then her face relaxed into an impressed smile. "You know your worth. I respect that." She extended her hand. 3,000 even, with testimonial rights. "We have a deal?" "We do." My voice didn't betray the earthquake happening inside my chest. On the bus ride home, my phone chimed not the rejection tone, but the distinctive sound of a deposit notification. $1,600 from Artisan Snacks LLC glowed on my screen. If you've ever had to rebuild confidence at 36 after years of subtle undermining, you know exactly how those 4 digits felt. Not just money validation. As I unlocked my apartment door, another notification appeared. The subject line made my finger pause mid-swipe. "Design Excellence Awards, final call for entries." I opened the email, scanning until the key phrase leapt from the screen. Grand prize includes featured spread in Design Monthly magazine and $10,000 cash award. $10,000. Financial breathing room. Professional resurrection. My finger hovered over delete. The Sanders voice in my head whispered I wasn't ready, wasn't good enough, and would embarrass myself. I hit save instead. 6 weeks after leaving Sanders' orbit, I sat across from Dr. Bennett for our 3rd therapy session. The late afternoon sun slanted through Venetian blinds, painting prison bar shadows across the Turkish rug between us. The minimalist wall clock ticked steadily, each sound measuring progress away from who I'd been conditioned to become. "What Kendall said at the barbecue, that wasn't the cause of your departure, it was the catalyst. Doctor?" Bennett leaned forward, her silver-framed glasses catching the light. "Tell me about the first straw." My throat tightened. "I don't know if there was a first straw." "There's always a first straw, Brooke." Her voice held certainty without judgment, often buried so deep we pretend it never happened. I stared at my hands, studying the tan line where my wedding ring had been, the Christmas after we were married. Mitchell's mother gave everyone personalized gifts: monogrammed cashmere for Kendall, rare scotch for Gerald, vintage cufflinks for Mitchell. My voice sounded strange to my own ears. She gave me a book on etiquette, said it might help me adjust to their world. And Mitchell? Laughed. Said his mother was old-fashioned but meant well. The memory burned hotter than I expected. I read that damn book cover to cover, learned which fork to use for fish, how to write proper thank you notes, started dressing differently, speaking differently. Dr. Bennett didn't fill the silence when I stopped. I became smaller, I whispered finally, piece by piece. The clock ticked 10 times before she spoke again. And now? I pulled my phone from my bag, scrolling to photos from that morning Washington Park at dawn, mountains silhouetted against a sky bleeding from black to indigo to orange. I walk every morning at 5:30. The early light on the mountains has become a kind of meditation. Good, she nodded. What else? Midnight design sessions, workshops on Saturdays with local designers who critique without condescension. I scrolled further, showing her screenshots of new work. I'm learning software I should have mastered years ago. My finger hovered over my Nightingale component library, the collection of UX elements I'd built from scratch during my Chicago days, before Mitchell, before the Sanders family. Dr. Bennett noticed. That's different from the work you showed me from your married years. It's my Nightingale library. I enlarged the screen. I created it before I met Mitchell. Named it after Florence Nightingale. Most people know her as a nurse, but she was also a pioneering data visualizer. My voice strengthened. I found it in a box last week. Had forgotten how much I loved it. Keep that close, Dr. Bennett said, making a note. It connects you to your resilience from before this marriage. You'll need that reminder as we do this work. My phone buzzed an email notification. The preview made my stomach drop. From Whitaker and Associates. Subject: Reconciliation Meeting Request, Mitchell Sanders. Dr. Bennett watched my face. Something wrong? Mitchell's lawyer. My voice sounded surprisingly steady. Requesting a reconciliation meeting. What will you do? I set the phone face down. Call my own lawyer. File the divorce papers. That's definitive. No judgment in her tone, just observation. Filing the papers isn't just a legal procedure, it's a reclaiming agency. The certainty in my voice surprised me. Each signature is a declaration that the competition entry I'm crafting will belong solely to me. My phone buzzed again, a voicemail notification from Mitchell. Dr. Bennett nodded toward it. You should listen. You don't have to respond, but information is power. I pressed play, setting it to the speaker. Brooke, please. Mitchell's voice filled the room, that familiar tone of exasperation tinged with charm. My parents are devastated. At least talk to me before making permanent decisions. This isn't like you. I stopped the playback, saving the messaggino for sentiment, but as evidence of his priorities. Notice how even in his plea, your feelings aren't centered? Dr. Bennett tapped her notepad. It's about his parents' devastation, not your pain. The anger that flashed through me felt clean and clarifying. 7 years of marriage and he still doesn't see me. Perhaps he never did. Her words weren't cruel, just factual. When I left her office, I checked my email again. The design competition website had updated with the judge's information. Thomas Westfield of Westfield and Company headed the panel. A quick search revealed what my gut already suspected: Westfield and Company handled accounts for Aurora Organics, a Sanders Holdings subsidiary. I called Erin immediately. You're kidding. Her voice crackled through the car speakers as I drove home. That's some cosmic irony right there. Should I withdraw my entry? The steering wheel felt slick under my palms. Hell no. Erin's decisiveness steadied me. If your work is good enough to win on merit, the Sanders connection is irrelevant. Later that night, we sat on her balcony with glasses of cheap red wine, laughing about the coincidence until tears streamed down our faces. The mountain air carried away our voices, the laughter more healing than the therapy session had been. 14 days until the design competition deadline, I said, sobering. 14 days to create something worthy of who I'm becoming rather than who I was. Erin topped off my glass. Kendall never saw this coming when she opened her mouth at that barbecue. No, I twisted the stem of my wine glass. But I meant what I said that day. Challenge accepted. To disappearing and becoming more visible than ever. Erin clinked her glass against mine. The city lights below us mirrored the stars above, both reminding me how vast the world was beyond the suffocating orbit of the Sanders family. My phone buzzed again, another email from Mitchell's lawyer. I silenced it without looking. Tomorrow I will file for divorce. Tonight I would sketch designs until my fingers cramped, pushing boundaries I'd never dared approach under the Sanders influence. The anger that had been building for 7 years now fueled something better: determination. Dr. Bennett was right. The Nightingale Library wasn't just good design work, it was a reminder of who I'd been before allowing myself to be diminished. The woman who built something from nothing once. That woman was resurfacing, one day at a time. The morning of the Design Excellence Awards showcase dawned with Denver's perfect mountain sunshines, if the universe were spotlighting this pivotal moment. I smoothed the front of my emerald jumpsuit, a color I'd never have worn to a Sanders family function. The fabric caught the light with each breath, transforming nervousness into something that resembled confidence from a distance. "Are you ready for this?" Erin asked, adjusting my collar with the familiar fussiness of an older sister. "Because you look ready." The gallery space buzzed with Denver's design elite. 10 finalist displays lined the whitewashed walls, each illuminated by precisely angled spotlights. My artisan snacks campaign stood among them, clean lines and bold typography that spoke of authenticity rather than pretension, work that belonged solely to me. The distinctive clicking of heels against hardwood floors echoed through the high-ceilinged space, each step a heartbeat marking time until my presentation. I clutched my tablet tighter, running through mental checklists as Thomas Westfield entered with his entourage. His salt and pepper hair and impeccable suit broadcast influence before he spoke a word. He nodded toward my display, then continued his circuit of the room. "That's him," Jordan whispered, appearing beside me with 2 coffee cups. "Westfield represents half the organic brands in the region, including Aurora Organics." I finished, accepting the coffee. "Sanders Holdings subsidiary." Jordan raised an eyebrow. "Small world. Are you okay with that?" I took a steady sip. "My work stands on its own. The connection is irrelevant." 3 judges made notes on clipboards while examining my display board. One pointed to the color psychology section and nodded appreciatively. A flicker of validation warmed my chest, only to freeze solid when a familiar figure appeared in my peripheral vision. Mitchell stood at the back of the room. My coffee sloshed dangerously close to the rim. What possible reason could he have for being here? Denver was 1,100 miles from Connecticut. He wore the navy blazer I'd selected during our last anniversary shopping trip, the one Elaine had called refreshingly traditional. "That's not," Jordan started. "My soon-to-be ex-husband?" I confirmed, voice dropping to a whisper. "Yes." Before Jordan could respond, the program director tapped the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our finalist presentations. Each designer has 3 minutes to showcase their vision, beginning with Brooke Miller presenting the Artisan Snacks campaign. 3 minutes. 180 seconds to prove myself worthy of this room, this opportunity, this new life." I placed my coffee on a nearby table and walked toward the presentation area, consciously controlling each step to disguise the trembling in my knees. Mitchell's gaze tracked me across the room, his expression unreadable. The projector hummed to life as I connected my tablet. My fingers found the familiar icons without conscious direction muscle memory from 1,000 presentations. The first slide appeared crisp and professional against the white wall. "Good morning. I began, voice steadier than expected. What you see before you represents more than a rebrand. It's a reclamation of authenticity in an oversaturated market. The audience settled into attentive silence. My introduction flowed into the problem statement slide, then to the color psychology overview. Each transition executed perfectly, while I spoke about conscious consumer choices and visual honesty. Then came the animation sequence, the cornerstone of my presentation, showing how package design transformed from cluttered industry standards to clean, truthful messaging. I tapped the screen to advance. Nothing happened. I tapped again. The screen remained frozen on the transition slide, the loading. Icons spinning endlessly. The silence in the room thickened from attentive to uncomfortable. Just one moment, I murmured, finger jabbing with increasing urgency. The tablet responded with stubborn blankness. I glanced up to find 20 pairs of eyes fixed on me, including Mitchell's. He leaned forward slightly, concern mixing with something else, validation, perhaps, of whatever narrative he'd constructed about my departure. My throat closed as if invisible fingers were physically choking me. The ghosts of Sanders' judgments filled my head at once. Elaine's disapproving stare, Gerald's dismissive headshake, Kendall's perfectly timed barb. If you disappeared tomorrow, no one would even notice. For 17 excruciating seconds, I stood frozen. The silence expanded until it felt physical, pressing against my skin. One step toward the exit was all it would take to confirm every doubt ever voiced about me. My eyes darted toward the door, calculating the distance. 3 minutes. Less than 2 remaining now. 2 minutes to salvage this opportunity or surrender it completely. My fingers found the outline of my Nightingale component library in my bag, the physical reminder of who I was before the Sanders. I gripped it once, hard enough to feel the spiral binding leave an impression on my palm. With unexpected calm, I disconnected the tablet and stepped forward. Technology fails, I said, voice clear in the uncomfortable silence. Design thinking doesn't. Thomas Westfield's eyebrows lifted slightly. The tension in the room shifted from secondhand embarrassment to curiosity. Let me tell you why this approach matters without the visual aids. I continued, moving closer to the audience. Artisan snacks came to me because consumers increasingly demand authenticity, not the appearance of authenticity, actual truthfulness in design. As I spoke, the room recalibrated. People leaned forward rather than away. A woman in the front row nodded along with my explanation of color psychology cues. Thomas Westfield made notes on a leather-bound pad, his pen moving steadily across the page. By the time the program director signaled my final 30 seconds, the technical failure had transformed from catastrophe to opportunity. I concluded with the results. Artisan Snacks' 34% sales increase following implementation, and thanked the audience. The applause started with Jordan, spread to the judges' table, and rippled through the room. As I stepped down from the small stage, my heel caught on the bottom step. I stumbled forward, then recovered with a small, deliberate bow that earned surprised laughter. Judges will deliberate over lunch, the program director announced as I returned to my seat. Results will be announced at 3 p.m. Masterful recovery, Jordan whispered, passing me a fresh coffee. Technical difficulties happen to everyone. What matters is how you handle them. Mitchell hovered near the exit, clearly debating whether to approach. Before he could decide, Thomas Westfield intercepted me, business card extended between manicured fingers. Regardless of the competition outcome, we should talk about Aurora Organics, he said, voice carrying just far enough for Mitchell to hear. They need exactly this authentic approach. That presentation, particularly your recovery, demonstrated exactly the adaptability we value in our collaborators. As I accepted his card, I caught Mitchell's expression shifting from confidence to confusion. He had expected to find me floundering without the Sanders infrastructure. Instead, he witnessed me standing firmly on the ground of my own making. The competition winner wouldn't be announced for hours, but something fundamental had already been decided. Technology might fail, confidence might waver. But 17 seconds of terror couldn't erase the woman who had emerged from the ashes of that summer barbecue. The woman who had accepted the challenge. 6 months later, the sizzle of champagne bubbles against crystal rims punctuates the perfect autumn evening, a sound that will forever remind me of the exact moment I reclaimed my worth. The Marketing Innovation Gala spreads across Denver's restored Paramount Theater like an oil painting come to life if Rembrandt had painted tech entrepreneurs instead of Dutch merchants. I stand at the edge of the gathering, clutching my portfolio tablet that contains 6 months of painstaking work, feeling like an intruder despite my name on the program. Brooke? There you are. Thomas Westfield's voice carries that particular tone he reserves for valued team members, warm with a hint of urgency, as if my existence is crucial to the evening's success. Aurora's CMO just arrived. She's eager to see the final presentation. I nod, my smile genuine as I follow him through the crowd. 24 hours after receiving the competition's honorable mention and, more importantly, Westfield & Company's contract offer, the reality still hasn't fully registered. The theater buzzes with industry professionals arranging themselves around cocktail tables draped in burgundy linen. Just be yourself, Thomas says, lightly touching my elbow as we approach a woman in a tailored pantsuit. Your authentic approach is what won them over. The words catch in my chest like a fishhook. Be yourself. The phrase sounds simple, but it took dismantling my entire life to remember who that person was. Brooke Miller, our lead designer for the Aurora rebrand, Thomas introduces me, deliberately using my maiden name, a detail I'd requested when signing the contract. I extend my hand, feeling the unfamiliar weight of confidence. Pleasure to meet you. The CMO's grip is firm. Your concept boards were revolutionary. That's exactly the direction we've been searching for. Back in the main hall, I survey the crowd while Thomas discusses scheduling details. Crystal glasses clink in greeting, the sound of wealth acknowledging wealth, so different from the paper plates and plastic cups of my childhood in Akron. My gaze catches on a familiar silhouette near the bar, and my lungs constrict. Gerald Sanders stands with his back to me, gesturing expansively to a circle of admiring executives. His silver hair gleams under the vintage chandeliers, still perfectly coiffed as if sculpted rather than grown. Without seeing his face, I recognize the set of his shoulders, the authoritative tilt of his head, the way space seems to rearrange itself around him. 2 hours until the official unveiling, Thomas murmurs, returning to my side. 2 hours of navigating this minefield of past and present. I nod, unable to form words as Gerald turns slightly, his profile now visible. My phone vibrates in my clutch, a text from Erin. You've got this. Remember, you're not the same woman who left Connecticut. She's right. 6 months ago, I would have retreated to the ladies' room. Tonight, I straighten my spine and move toward the bar, selecting a spot just within Gerald's peripheral vision. The moment of recognition comes with a subtle change in his posture, a fractional stiffening that most wouldn't notice. He excuses himself from his group and approaches with measured steps. Brooke. His voice carries that particular cadence reserved for unexpected situations, controlled with an undercurrent of assessment. Quite a surprise. I'm the lead designer for Aurora's organic rebrand, I reply, the words falling from my lips with a calm I don't entirely feel but project anyway. I see. His gaze sweeps over me, taking in my cobalt blue jumpsuit, a color and style I'd never have worn to a Sanders family function. The reassessment is visible in the slight narrowing of his eyes. Congratulations on Mitchell's Tokyo expansion. I offer, the words genuine despite everything. I hear it's going well. Gerald's eyebrows lift fractionally. He's exceeding projections. The Japanese market has been remarkably receptive. A pause. He's here tonight, actually. My heart stutters. Of course he is. Aurora Organics is a Sanders Holdings subsidiary. This collision was inevitable in the business world we both inhabit. Ladies and gentlemen, the event coordinator announces from the small stage. Please take your seats for our first presentation of the evening. Gerald nods once. Perhaps we'll catch up later. I watch him retreat to a front row table where Elaine sits, her silver blonde hair twisted into an elegant chignon. She hasn't seen me yet. Small mercies. Thomas appears at my elbow. Ready? I swallow hard. As I'll ever be. The stage lights warm my skin as I connect my tablet to the projector. The audience settles, a soft rustle of expensive fabric and expectation. I scan the crowd, my gaze colliding with Mitchell's in the third row. His expression shifts from polite interest to stark recognition, color draining from his face. I don't stumble. I don't falter. Years of rehearsing presentations for disinterested Sanders family members has prepared me for this moment. Good evening, I begin, my voice steady. I'm Brooke Miller, lead designer for the Aurora Organics rebrand. The presentation flows seamlessly, the culmination of everything I've learned about myself and my craft since walking away from Connecticut. I speak about authentic connection to consumers, about transparent design reflecting transparent business practices, about visuals that evoke trust rather than manufacturing it. I don't look at Mitchell again until the final slide. This rebrand isn't just about updating colors or typography, I conclude. It's about revealing the true value that was always there, waiting to be recognized. The applause fills the space between my last word and the moment I must step off stage. Thomas joins me, shaking my hand with professional enthusiasm before turning to the microphone. This innovative approach is why Aurora selected Westfield & Company over their usual marketing partner, he announces, his voice carrying to every corner of the room. Gerald's expression shifts subtly, confusion, then dawning comprehension. Aurora has been a Sanders Holdings client for 8 years, until now. The revelation ripples through the room. Kendall, whom I hadn't noticed earlier, stands near the back wall, her champagne flute frozen halfway to her lips. Our eyes meet across the distance. After the Q&A session, she approaches with the determined stride of someone with a point to make. Brooke, Kendall says, her designer dress catching the light exactly as it always did at family functions. No one mentioned you were involved with this project. Before I can respond, Thomas slides smoothly into the conversation. Miss Sanders, pleasure to meet you. Brooke has been exceptional to work with. You know each other, Kendall states, her tone flat. Former family connection, I supply. Thomas raises an eyebrow but continues smoothly. Excuse us. We need to prepare for the Q&A. He guides me away, leaving Kendall with her tight smile and unanswered questions. The reception area buzzes with post-presentation networking. I accept business cards and compliments with grace that feels foreign but welcome. Mitchell appears beside me during a rare moment alone. You look well, he says, his voice softer than I remember. Thank you. I didn't know you were in Denver. That was intentional. His eyes search mine. I've thought a lot about what happened, about Kendall's comment and everything before that. I didn't understand at first, but this past year has been clarifying. I nod, unsure what response he's seeking. Forgiveness, perhaps. Understanding. Neither feels necessary to offer or withhold anymore. Mitchell, darling, there you are? Elaine's voice cuts through our silence as she glides toward us, her expression shifting from social determination to surprise. Brooke! What an absolute delight to see you thriving. We've all missed you at family gatherings. No one makes honey brine chicken quite like yours. The comment lands exactly as she intends a reminder of my place in their hierarchy, a casual diminishment of my professional achievement by reducing me to a recipe. That's interesting, I reply, my voice level. I recall my chicken being relegated to the side table while Kendall's catered appetizers took center stage at the last gathering I attended. Elaine's smile falters, uncertainty flickering across her features. In years of marriage, she's never heard this version of me, the one who speaks truth without apology. Well, she recovers, patting Mitchell's arm. Water under the bridge. We should catch up properly. Perhaps dinner while we're in town? I'm afraid my schedule is quite full, I say, spotting Thomas signaling me from across the room. If you'll excuse me. Walking away from them feels like shedding a skin I've outgrown. Kendall's challenge, if you disappeared tomorrow, no one would even notice, had precipitated not just my physical departure, but a complete reinvention. The final irony was that by disappearing from their world, I had become more visible on my own. Thomas hands me a fresh glass of champagne. Successful evening by any measure, he says, clinking his glass against mine. To new beginnings. I raise my glass in response, the bubbles catching the light like tiny stars. To being seen. The sizzle of bacon in my new cast-iron skillet punctuates a perfect October morning, a sound that will forever remind me of the exact moment I knew I was finally home. 6 months after the Marketing Innovation Gala, I stand in the empty living room of my new house, watching sunlight pour through windows that need no curtains. The nearest neighbor sits a quarter-mile down the winding road, their rooftop barely visible through a stand of aspens turning gold in the Colorado autumn. Last box, Aaron announces, setting down a container labeled Office, Priority, with more tape than necessary. Unless you count the wine rack Dad insisted on sending, which technically isn't a box. I run my hand along the smooth pine mantle of the fireplace. The real estate listing had called this place Modest Mountain Charm, which translated to small but with a view that makes you forget the mortgage. My mortgage. My name alone on every document. Can you believe it? I whisper, more to myself than to Aaron. Bought entirely with earnings from sand and salt. Aaron flops onto the single piece of furniture in the Ruma-battered leather armchair I'd rescued from a thrift store in Boulder. Remember when you used to hide your freelance checks from Mitchell so he wouldn't suggest investing them in Sanders Holdings? The memory stings less than it once did. Remember when Elaine asked if my little design hobby might qualify for some sort of tax write-off? We burst into laughter that bounces off empty walls, filling spaces that will soon contain the life I've chosen rather than the one I accepted. Through the west-facing windows of what will become my home office, the Front Range rises like a promise. The mountain wind creates visible patterns in the tall grass, a rhythm that matches my breathing rather than constricts it. No country club chatter, no Sanders family politics, just the sound of possibility. I unpack my desktop monitor first, then my laptop, setting them on the reclaimed barnwood desk Jordan helped me find at an estate sale. The wall opposite the window waits emptith, perfect spot for the collection I've carefully transported from Denver. Want help with the gallery wall? Aaron asks, appearing in the doorway with coffee mugs featuring dancing cacti, housewarming gift from my new weekend hiking group. I need to do this one myself, I tell her. One by one, I unpack the frames from a box labeled Victories in my precise handwriting. The honorable mention certificate from the Design Excellence Awards. The first check from Artisan Snacks, now framed rather than cashed. A feature in Design Monthly highlighting emerging voices in UX. My divorce decree finalized 97 days ago. The document that legally returned my name while affirming I'd already reclaimed myself. In the center, I hang a shadow box containing my Nightingale component library now, expanded into a full design system that forms the backbone of my work for 6 different clients. The visual language I created despite years of being silenced has become my signature, recognized across the industry for its intuitive functionality and distinct aesthetic. My phone buzzes from the desk. If that's Mitchell again, I swear to God, Aaron mutters. But it's an email notification from my assistant, the part-time graduate student I hired last month when client demands exceeded my capacity. New inquiry from Westfield and Company. Request for proposal on the Aurora Organics expansion. Shall I tell Thomas we're considering other projects at present? Reads the second line. I smile at the subtle power in that question. 6 months ago, I would have dropped everything for such an opportunity. Now, I can afford to be selective. Tell him I'll review the brief next week, I reply, and remind him my rates increased as of October 1st. Aaron whistles. Look at you, setting boundaries with the big boys. In the bathroom down the hall, I splash cold water on my face, letting droplets cling to my eyelashes as I study my reflection. The woman who stares back seems both familiar and new, thinner perhaps, with faint lines around her eyes, but with a clarity of gaze I hadn't seen in years. I've cut my hair to shoulder length, a practical choice that feels revolutionary after a decade of maintaining the longer style Mitchell preferred. Back in the kitchen, I unpack the coffee machine and plug it in. The familiar gurgle feels like continuity amid change. 30 days until launching my UX mentorship program for women in transition. I tell Erin, consulting the calendar app on my phone. 30 days to formalize what I've learned, that sometimes walking away is the strongest move you can make. You sound like a self-help book, she teases, but her eyes shine with pride. Maybe I'll write one next, I laugh. My laptop chimes with an incoming email. I expect it's my assistant with another update, but the sender line makes me pause. Kendall Sanders. Everything okay? Erin asks, noticing my stillness. I open the message. Just found out we're launching a maternity app. Would love your input on the UX design. No pressure, just thought of you first. Erin reads over my shoulder, her expression darkening. The audacity, after everything. No, I interrupt softly. This isn't about audacity, it's about competence. The Sanders family has receded from my daily thoughts, becoming characters in a story I'd lived through rather than active presences in my life. Revenge wasn't winning over them, it was winning myself back. I type a brief response. Congratulations on the project. I'd be open to discussing it. Coffee next week? You're kidding, Erin says. I close my laptop and turn to the window where the mountains stand immovable, perspective-giving. Sometimes the family you choose recognizes what the family you married into couldn't see. Your worth isn't determined by those who fail to see it. It's revealed by having the courage to walk away and build something new. The coffee machine beeps its completion. I pour 2 mugs and hand one to my sister. To disappearing, I toast, and becoming more visible than ever,